What is up, guys? Rick here from Shop Productions, and we are back with another episode of Scrap Mechanic. And today's episode, we are going to be doing a base tour as promised in the previous episode. So let's go ahead and get started with that. One thing I forgot to mention, I'm going to be going into more in detail on how certain mechanisms in the truck works at the end of the video. So if you guys want to see how specific things in the truck works, including the turn signals, I'll be breaking that down at the very end of the video, so stick around for that. One thing I quickly forgot to mention, the reason why we're still in a mechanic shop is kind of like a double-edged sword. We have a really nice seed in terms of we have almost everything we need close to us, and that's really lucky. Like, we actually have a chemical plant. That is our chemical plant right there. Like, it is within vision of the mechanic shop. We can walk over there with the chest, put a vacuum pump, and take all the stuff we need. And right next to it is actually an ember forest biome. We have 4 ruin buildings, so you can see one right there, and there's actually 2 more out to the side here, so we can pretty much get everything we need from here. And I say it's a double-edged sword because although it's great that we have all this stuff next to us, it makes it really difficult to find a better place to have a base, because I want to build a base. Like, I want to have that experience of building a base, but the issue is that any location that we find, we're not going to find another location like this where it's so close to just everything we need. So I'm debating building a base that's just really close to the mechanic shop, because this is just such a good area, and that's why we stayed here for so long, just because it hasn't made sense to move out because we have everything just near us. Now, the only thing we don't have near us are really big warehouses, and those are on a much more difficult side to get, because we have all the basic stuff near us that is really easy to get to, but then there's like a whole nother side of the map that's separated by an ocean, and the only way to get over to that side is with this one road, but that one road is extremely steep, so it makes it really difficult for big vehicles to get up, and it almost always has a red bot that spawns on it. So first things first, we are still living in the mechanic shop, and I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a tour of our crafting system here. First of all, we do have these kind of gates that I set up with it's just an X-Door gate hooked up to a couple of pistons made out of reinforced concrete. And we just use that to prevent the farm bots or hay bots from getting in here, because in the beginning we did have an incident where some of the hay bots came in and destroyed our entire pile of soil bags, and it became really hard to farm at that point because that was pretty much all the soil we had at the time. So I decided to put this in to kind of prevent that. And this is also our main kind of workspace, as you know it is for most people. Looking at the crafting system, we basically have 2 craft bots here that are both connected, and we have the input and output lines connected to each other. So all of these chests here are all of the crafting system chests. So every large chest that you see here can be seen by the 2 craft bots. So we only put materials in these black chests that are craftable or are used as a crafting ingredient. The red chests are the output chests, which we have some miscellaneous ingredients that we just crafted. And then we have vacuum pipes to connecting the different rows of chests to make sure it's all connected. And then we also have a vacuum pump connected all the way to the ocean. And this actually provides us a constant source of water. So all we have to do if we need water is go to the ocean and flick on our vacuum pump, and then this chest will start filling up. In these smaller chests, we have some circuits. In both of these green ones and this red one, we have all of our mountable spud gun materials. In these gray chests, we have pipe pieces and other individual kind of connection pieces. All these yellow chests are component pieces, so all the kind of interactable / tool pieces. The brown chest is for our reserve amount of wood. Black is for any metal type pieces, and this one is kind of disorganized and you organize that, but this is a better example. Metal pieces, this is all the rusted metal we looted from the warehouse. In the gray chest, we have stone and brick-like material. In the pink chest, we have all decorative / miscellaneous stuff. And in the orange chest, this is just a spare chest that we have laying around here. Over here, we have a food section. So all these chests here on the wall are the corresponding fruit color. So we have blueberries, oranges, the bananas, carrots, tomatoes, beets, and then in these 2 fridges we have all of our potatoes. We have one for milk, and then we have one for our meat. And in the chest on the right here, this is the part that I'm very proud of, because this took so much time just sitting here clicking, not only farming the ingredients but clicking. We have all of our craftable stuff. This is just, well, the shake that you loot that that I've been kind of hoarding, but this is the part that I'm proud of. We have almost, well, half a chest of pizza burgers, and this right here, a full chest of veggie burgers, which, as you know, refill all of your health and all of your hunger. So these are going to be really, really good for when we do the warehouse raid, and I'm super excited about that. And then we have a total of 20 revival baguettes, which, so nobody's going to be getting downed here, and I'm going to be really excited for that once we get to that. If you guys are excited for that, make sure to keep watching, make sure to subscribe, and you turn on your notifications so you guys see when that episode comes out, because that's going to be so much fun. But this part, doing all these veggie burgers, took a long time just to farm the materials. But also simply to craft them took forever, because you can't queue items in the cook bot like you can in the craft bot. So I had to sit here, and they take 10 seconds to make, so it's not enough time for me to go anywhere and do something, but it's enough time that it takes a minute to make 6 of them. So at that point, I'm sitting here consistently clicking for maybe 10 minutes straight, and I can't do anything else except like look at stuff through my phone. So that took a long time, so I'm really proud that I got that done at least. Over here we just have some miscellaneous materials and just random small bits. We have our glowworms for our glow poop, and then we have our seed shelf with all organized seeds that we just use the lift to kind of go up. And then we have our fertilizer on the very top here. We keep a couple signs here, as well as all of our soil. We have our beautiful wall of component kits. I like keeping 20 component kits in the craftbot system here. So 20, and this will provide us enough so we can craft whatever we need, because the component kits are a crafting ingredient. But when it comes to extra component kits or upgrading, I like to display them on this wall as a kind of to show our wealth, sort of, because as everyone knows, component kits are the diamonds of Scrap Mechanic. And we also this is actually 2 layers thick of component kits up until the very end here, when it's just shy of a little bit less. And then in the middle we have our 2 warehouse keys that we got from killing 2 red bots. And then we have our 5 garment boxes to the right, which I'm actually saving for when we do the warehouse raid, so I can open them all at once, and we can open our epic and rares from that as well. Coming out to the front of the building, we have a little elevator that was actually just recently built in between episodes by Mr. Jams here, taking us up to the top of the mechanic shop, because this is actually Mr. Jams's workshop. The top of the mechanic shop is where he likes to do his projects, and we can find some chests up here as well. But he is currently building this, I think he wants it to be a SWAT van. He has kind of a basic version of a saw cart and a little golf cart here, as well as a motorcycle that he is working on. And it's actually a really, really nice place to build, because it's really flat, and it's pretty satisfying. Before he built the elevator though, he made this staircase, which is what we used previous to that to get up and down here. Now, in the pods that are on the side of the mechanic shop, we actually are using these to store all of the big bulky items, like all of the tote bot heads that we have attained throughout this journey here. All the tote bot heads are number 1 here. Number 2, we obviously can't put anything, and I actually boarded it off with the do not enter sign, because that's where the farm bot spawns. But at number 3, we have all of the other miscellaneous components that we loot from the warehouses or the scrap towns. So plenty of lights, these metal pallets, as well as those sheet metals and the big metal beams. So any of these big components that we don't really want to take up space in our chests or make more chests for, we keep it in this warehouse. And eventually we do have enough metal to make chests to put everything in, but right now it's just not necessary, and I'd rather keep all these things that don't stack separate from all the things that do stack. Now, the whole meat and potatoes that keeps this entire thing together, the farm. The farm, as you can see, is located in the very kind of back of the mechanic shop over along the shore. And it actually consists of a lot of cool features that I implemented. One being this little control booth that I have, which is supposed to be kind of a little safe house that you can lock yourself in case you're getting overwhelmed. And the reinforced concrete around you should provide enough protection for you to heal and get your bearings and shoot back. We have a respawn bed in here, as well as a chest full of the seeds to plant, as well as a couple burgers and milk to get your health up, and some more seeds here. We have an automatic watering system, which if we turn on the blue switch, that turns on the pumps, and we click this, it will go ahead and water all of the plots, and there are a total of 100 plots here, and then it'll retract automatically. Additionally, the farm also has spotlights that I use during the raids to see the enemies from a further distance away, and this also turns on the lights right above the crops so you can just see them better at night. It's a pretty simple farm design, and it gets the job done. We can only do 100 plots at a time, but so far that's pretty much been enough. I do want to expand it to maybe 200, but I want to save that till we move and actually get a permanent base set up, because I don't want to put too much time into this farm and then we have to disassemble it and move anyways. And then over here we have our cow pen, and this is pretty much as far as the base goes. It's just a simple cow pen where we get our milk. We have 2 sets of doors, one to provide protection from the outside, and the wood just keeps them away from the wall so that way they don't get hit from the farm bot swinging at them. Now moving on to the good part here, the vehicles. I'm going to show you guys my vehicle lineup. If you guys want to see Mr. Jams' vehicle lineup in detail, let me know in the comments, but I'm just going to show you guys mine for now, and then we'll see what you guys want to see from there. So this is my Explorer. This was strongly inspired by Con Gaming's Buggy, and it actually uses the exact same double wishbone suspension that he designed, the adjustable suspension design. It works decently well on this vehicle. The only problem that I have with this thing is that it flips really easily, and I don't like that. This is, although, my very first vehicle that I actually built in survival, or like complicated vehicle. I built really simple kind of, you know the basic drill car you make and then all that crap, but this is the first like dedicated cool vehicle that I built. But it has a ton of equipment chests here. We have a couple revival baguettes, some spare food in the hood. We have the gas engine hidden in the hood there, and then it has 4 seats in the cabin here. Plenty of room for extra chests here, so 4 small chests in the middle, 1 large chest on top, and then it also has a trunk with a respawn bed and 2 other chests down here, and it gets the job done. It definitely gets the job done. As you can see, the suspension does work. The only problem is that, like I said, it flips a lot and it doesn't go up hills very well because it is an extremely heavy truck. I shouldn't have made it out of concrete, but yet again, this was like one of the first vehicles that I built, so I didn't really know how to build vehicles, also what material to make it out of. But I also don't want to deconstruct it and redo it because I do like the way it looks and I like the effort that I put into it. And if so, I might just keep it and make a new Explorer vehicle that's lighter and more efficient. But if we go ahead and hop in this thing, if you press 1, it raises the front suspension here. You press 2, it raises the back suspension here, and we can press those to drop it. Number 3 turns on the headlights and the rear tail lights. Number 4 turns on the floodlights up top, which are actually brighter than the headlights. Number 5 opens the tailgate, and then number 6 is our radio. Next up, we have our drill car. Now this was something that was actually the second vehicle that I built. I had a drill car, but I completely redid it with a better knowledge of how to play the game. I looked up a lot of guides and interesting things, and I'm really proud with the way this turned out. I probably wouldn't make it that much different at all. Maybe I'd add a second refinery and resource collector, but that's about it. I love this design. It works really well. And it basically, we have 2 level 5 engines. One powers the drills, one powers the vehicle, and we have a butt ton of controls here, but it handles very smoothly. She turns on a dime. We have the 4-wheel steering, so it's really nice to steer. Now, number 1 will turn on and off the drills. Number 2 pushes the drill bits inward here. Number 3 pushes the front drill bits there outward. Number 4 will turn them downwards, and this is useful for when the arms go down, which I'll show you here. Number 5 makes them angle outwards, and number 6 actually makes them go down. So what happens here is when we press number 5, they're angled outwards at an angle here. This allows me to grab bigger rocks, and then I can kind of tilt it in to make it square. And then we can go ahead and press 4, and that'll rotate the drills down, and also just have a combination of stuff like 2. And this is kind of a sweeper mode that the drill bits go into, and this helps get a lot of the stuff that is on the ground. Now, the resource collector in this vehicle is so low to the ground that it actually picks up all of the items and then just automatically refines them, so we don't have to go back to the base at all. We can just keep driving and mining, and the only limit we really have is our gas, which we have 1 full gas tank here, and we can pretty much keep mining until we run out of gas. And usually with this vehicle, I'm able to get about 5 to 6 stacks of metal before I need to refuel and gas. Okay, so now moving on to our next vehicle, we have the truck. Now, a lot of you wanted to see some specific details or even tutorial on the truck, and although I would love to do that, this thing took me close to maybe like 15 to 20 hours to build, so rebuilding the entire thing is not something I would be up for. However, I'd be totally up to show a couple of the different mechanisms on how this thing worked. In terms of like the vacuum pump, the turn signal, and I got a request also for the ramp at the back here. So I'll go through. If you guys didn't see the episode, I think it was number 1, where I showcased the truck initially, I'll go ahead and give you guys another run through here. So if we come up to the cabin, we go ahead and press this to open up. We can hop on these steps here, and we'll hop inside. We have a couple chests for storage, calendar, a respawn bed. The engine is under the seat, just for practicality purposes, because if I want to adjust the engine speed to go up a hill real quick, I don't want to go into the hood and do all that stuff, so I just have it right under the bed here. It's easy to access. Then we have another bed here where I store my extra paint, and then in the bottom here, this yellow chest is the chest for the vacuum pump, which goes out on the side. Now, and then we have tons of those switches here. These 3 white ones here are for the lights. One of them is for the interior. Oh, okay. One of them is for the interior lights, so lights of the interior. The other one is for the headlights and the tail lights, and then the other ones are for the floodlights on top, similar to the setup that I have for the Jeep. These lights on the sides are always on, and they will actually just turn into flashing mode when you physically turn the vehicle. So you can see in the front here, that's flashing, and then in sync with the front light, kind of have like this wave pattern, which is actually really similar in a lot of trucks in real life, and that's kind of where I got the inspiration from that. And then also in the back here, we also have a flashing light, and that looks really nice. And obviously that works on both sides. Now up here, if we press the cyan button, that button is not connected to the seat, but it opens up this floor hatch here, which allows us to go down here, and this is where I have all the logic stored, as well as just access to maintenance for the chest and other things. So all these Topbot heads are for our horn, and then we have all these logic gates, which these 3 logic gates right here are for the vacuum pump, so that's what consistently pulses the vacuum pump, telling it to shoot. And then these 4 timers right here on either side are for the individual lights, and that's how they blink. And I'm actually going to show you guys how this logic circuit works, but in order to do that, I'm going to rebuild the logic circuit outside of the truck so you guys can properly see how it works. Now if we press this yellow button in the middle here, we go ahead and open up our vacuum pump. Now this is really simple. The spider web for this thing I know is a big mess, but please try to ignore that for now. So all we have here is basically a controller hooked up to a piston and a bearing. The bearing opens the trapdoor and the piston pushes the vacuum pump out. And all we have on that is basically the entire piston mechanism is just connected directly to the chest and the vacuum pump. So if I begin to retract it here, you'll see that the piston essentially pushes the entire chest with the vacuum pump attached to it, and then the bearing for the trapdoor just rotates and closes. So it's actually a pretty simple setup. This isn't as complicated as people think it is. Now if we come to the back here, it's actually pretty much the same thing for the ramp. It's actually even simpler. A lot of people were wondering how this ramp works, and if we go ahead and open the doors here, and obviously the doors are just a controller on 2 bearings. I don't think I need to explain how that works. That one's pretty simple. But as far as the ramp goes, I actually designed this unintentionally. Originally, I wanted to have a piston and a bearing like I had the pump over there, hooked up to a controller that would activate when the piston is pushed out, and then the ramp would get angled downwards. But I just simply connected the piston to a button, and as soon as I pressed the button to open it, I realized that the bearing is just a free bearing, but because of gravity, the ramp just falls. And this actually makes it extend faster, because if not, then I'd have to wait for the bearing to retract before the piston will retract into the van or into the trailer. And then all we have here, this actual ramp is just a section of the floor in the trailer that will go ahead and get pushed out. And then under here, I just have some filler blocks, so that way when we throw the trailers in here, they don't get stuck. But that's pretty much how the ramp works. It's actually very simple mechanisms. All we have is a piston and a free bearing, and because of gravity, the ramp just falls once it gets to the end of the ramp here, and then it automatically gets pulled in as soon as the piston retracts. I also wanted to answer a potential question that I could see coming up, and that would be people asking if the truck and trailer were 2 separate creations, and they're not. They're actually all one creation. You probably saw this because I was able to put the entire truck on the list. I wanted them to be separate creation, but I didn't want to deal with the lag. I already lag a lot as it is, and for some reason in Scrap Mechanic, if you bring 2 big creations close to each other, they lag really badly. And what I mean by 2 separate creations, for those of you that are confused, is some people will have it so the trailer is not welded to the truck, and that basically enables them to have like a pin system, almost like a real trailer, where you're able to decouple the trailer from the cab and kind of drive away. But like I said, I didn't want to do that, so this is actually just connected with just a bearing on a single point, so that way the entire thing is just connected and I can just put the entire truck on the lift. It also makes it easier to work on, but yeah. Okay, so here we are. This is basically everything you will need in order to copy the turn signal mechanism for the truck. I've taken it out of the truck and I've put it down here to kind of better illustrate how this works. Now, first of all, you're gonna need a driver's seat. I'm just using this scrap one, so I don't have to craft a new one, but any driver's seat will work. You're going to need 2 sensors. You're gonna need 1 timer per light that you have on the side of the vehicle. You're going to need 2 logic gates, and you're going to need one extra light to put in front. Keep in mind the materials that are in the red square, you're going to need all these materials again for the other side. So this, you just need 1. This whole mechanism here, you only need 1 set of this, but all these you're going to need twice for each side. So for those of you that don't know what this is an A&D converter, and all this does is basically you set this up with a bearing, a little pipe piece, straight pipe piece, and a T-piece here, and with 2 sensors on the side. Each sensor is set to a range of 2. And when you connect this to your steering, all this does is it turns your steering into a on and off output depending on which side you're turning. So you can see when I turn left, it turns on that sensor and it stays there as long as I'm holding left, and then when I turn it off, it goes back to the center, and when I turn right, it does the same thing. So it's a very simple thing to set up, and you're going to need it in order to work out this logic circuit. Now moving on to the red circuit, this is the part that's actually going to control your lights. You're going to set up one timer to be 300 milliseconds, and then every other consecutive timer to be 100 milliseconds above that. So 500, 600, pretty much increasing by 100 every time. Each timer is going to be connected to a single light in the order that you want the lights to go down. And then the first timer, the one that's set to 300 milliseconds, you're going to go ahead and connect that to the AND gate. You're going to have this logic gate set to an AND gate. You're going to connect this logic gate to a NAND gate, and then you're going to connect the NAND gate back to this set of timers. So right off the bat, you're going to notice the first timer is blinking. Now we're going to connect the rest of the timers to the NAND gate as well. So these are all outputting to the NAND gate. You should see that the lights will flash one after the other, which is what you want. Now if the lights aren't going in the direction that you want them to go, simply just reverse the connections to make them go in the direction that you want. So you would want the smallest delay to be the first light. Now all we have to do here is we have to connect the sensor, which is corresponding to the side that the lights are on. At this point, to hook all this stuff up, all you have to do is connect the sensor to the corresponding side, to the AND gate specifically. And now you'll see when I turn left here, these will start blinking. Now you're probably wondering about the light that goes in front, right? This light, simply you just connect it to the AND gate, because this light you want off, just like this one here, and there you go. So now it will blink in sync with the first light, but unlike the first light, it'll turn off when you're not turning. And there you go, that's pretty much this light circuit in a nutshell. But with that being said, that's pretty much it for the base tour. Next episode, we're probably going to either build a new vehicle. I have a couple things in mind, which I'll share with you guys in the next episode, or we're going to do a warehouse raid. So either one of those things I'm really excited for. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see more. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.